everyone, I'm Grant and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be looking at redoing the cross member holding up my transmission transfer case for the sole reason of when I'm at idle, either free idle being park or neutral or in gear, and at very low RPM, my TJ Wrangler vibrates a lot. So much so that I have to go around about once a week and just check all the safety items to make sure nothing has come loose. And yes, I have started putting Loctite and locking nuts on everything, which has really helped. But I would like to resolve the vibration issue so that I don't have to do that on a weekly basis. I'm going to move the camera real quick and show you what I think the culprit is. I think the issue with all my vibrations is actually my transmission mount. Now, this is a heavy duty mount and I've been very happy with it, but it only isolates or allows the drivetrain to move in one direction. It can either move clockwise or counterclockwise. It can't move forward or backwards or left to right. And I think that's where I'm getting a lot of my vibration. So what I want to try replacing that mount with is one of these two mounts here. Now, I tried installing this one last summer. I had a problem where I couldn't figure out a good way to mount it, so I ended up not using it. But I also found this one online. This looks more like the factory OEM style that would have come on a brand new Jeep Cherokee in the 90s. So I also might be running this one. These are basically the same thing, but there are slight differences. This one is for an earlier style XJ Cherokee. This mount is actually for the 2000 and 2001 XJ Cherokee. And you know that because the bolts are in the center instead of being offset like this mount. So with that said, I'm gonna move the camera, I'm gonna get underneath my Jeep, I'm gonna jack up the drivetrain, put a jack stand underneath of it, and remove the cross member. All right, I can demonstrate this better on the table. So this is my current mount. You notice it tilts really well this way. There's almost no movement this way and none this way. And I think that's where a lot of my vibrations are coming from. The thing I failed to realize is the mount that I had already installed was designed for an AW4 and XJ Cherokee. Once I removed the top portion, I realized the mounting holes on the bottom of that plate would line up perfectly with the OEM style studs because it was designed to go in an XJ Cherokee. So I decided to save myself a lot of work by just cutting up the mount that was already there, drill out the holes and see if I could make the OEM style mount work. This is the transmission mount I'm going to try using because it's offset, and I did have to drill out the holes, but because I cut off the brackets, I have the little bit of curve on each side of the bottom of the bracket so it can kind of slide over stuff. So what I'm going to do now is move the camera underneath the Jeep, get this into place and see how close I am. I have a feeling these two bolt holes are going to be way off, but I won't know until I try. So I'm going to get to it. When I went to test fit the cross member with the OEM style transmission mount, I was really honestly surprised how everything lined up perfectly. It bolted up to the transmission, the cross member's in place, and this looks like it's going to work. So I'm going to move the camera, start the Wrangler, and see how the vibrations are, I guess. Fire in the hole. Part of my testing, I decided to put it in reverse gear because you have to understand the vibrations were always much more pronounced when it was either in reverse or drive. The amount of vibrations that I now have went down by well over 75%. I need to take it back apart so I can paint it and everything, but this is back together, it's moving under its own power, and I can wait until tonight or tomorrow when it's going to be way cooler. It's a few days later. I'm going to take this out on a test drive and kind of go over the couple of things I have noticed. I have been driving this off camera ever since I swapped the transmission mount. It feels like a different Jeep. That's about the best way I can put it. I mean, just even starting and idling it. It's quieter, it's smoother, it's easier to start. At this point, I'm actually convinced I had some kind of bind between the engine and the transmission, just the way I had it mounted. It's the best way I can describe it. Now, taking off, it requires way less throttle to get it up and going. That was one of the first things I noticed. I didn't feel like I was fighting. I was gonna say the engine, but that's kind of what it felt like. It felt like I was really having to push this TDI to get the Wrangler going from a dead stop. Now, you just barely get in the throttle and it takes off, which goes back to my whole thought process of it felt like I had a bind somewhere. The other major thing I've noticed is this engine revs much easier and smoother. I was always able to get this engine to rev high, but one of the things you don't realize until you solve a problem on an engine swap that you've never done before is this always would rev to about 3,200 and it would go to $4,000, but it was always felt like you had to push. I mean, now I can, and it just boosts and takes off, and it just, it's not nearly the amount of throttle that I used to have to give it. It just launches. But when you cruise now, it's way quieter. One of the other things I've really noticed, now today's not a fair day. Today is the first cool day we've had where I live in a long time. Mostly because it's overcast and it was raining last night and earlier this morning. But one of the other things I have noticed is my EGTs are down probably 100 to 125 degrees. And my EGTs were already great, but they're even better. And now when I'm at a stoplight or something, I don't feel like the Jeep is shaking itself apart. And I think I said shelf instead of self, which is awesome. I'm treating this as one of those very hard lessons learned. I have been doing this since 2018. 6 years. I have been doing this 6 years. And I have now used 3 different types of transmission mounts. I've used a perpendicular style, where you put a bolt in that goes perpendicular to the way the drivetrain is. I've used one that is parallel to the drivetrain. And now I've used the factory style one, which is 2 pieces of metal with a rubber compound in the middle that's bonded to the 2 pieces of metal. I will tell you, if you are doing this kind of swap, especially if you're doing an AW4 automatic, use the factory style. Unless there is a need, a significant need to have a more ruggedly mounted style, if you don't want a ton of vibration and noise and just the whole vehicle shaking from your TDI swap, go with the factory style. It is night and day better. Night and day. The quality of life with this mount, I can't show it on camera. It's one of those things that until you've been in this Wrangler, it's really difficult to get people to understand. I mean, like right now, I'm going the speed limit, going, 35 miles per hour. I'm in 3rd gear, probably. I don't know, I don't have the CompuShift app open, but torque converter is unlocked. I'm at 1800 RPM. I'm at 4 pounds of boost, probably 10% throttle, 550 degrees on my EGTs, and it will just hold this speed with absolute ease. But at the same time now, I can pull out it's a rocket. And the weird thing is, I cannot feel the shifts anymore. When it shifts gears, can't feel them anymore. It is butter smooth. The only way I know it's shifting gear is by the noise. The other thing I have noticed, when torque converter lockup engages, which I've now set to 54 miles per hour in third gear, it only drops about 150 to 200 RPM. I mean, even at stoplights now, my mirrors shake less in gear than it used to shake the mirrors in park or neutral. And when you're now in park and neutral, mirrors don't shake, ever. I think the biggest thing I can say about doing this is going to this transmission mount. I can finally say with some confidence, I feel like I could drive this every single day, and it's comfortable. There's no reason why I couldn't drive it like this every day, other than air conditioning. I really want to get air conditioning in this, and it's something I plan on doing at some point, but there's still so many other things I still have to do first. But anyway, that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again sometime soon.